You don't feel it. You don't know it's there. How do you fight something your body doesn't even warn you about? That is the single cruelest advantage this disease has. Right now, deep behind your stomach, a narrow, pale organ is quietly running two of your most critical systems, your blood sugar control and your digestion. It's called the pancreas, and when cancer grows here, it can expand in silence because the pancreas is hidden, protected by other organs, and able to keep working even while parts of it are being damaged. So the warning signs often don't show up at the beginning. They show up when the trap is already built. And today, we're going inside your body, step by step, to understand why pancreatic cancer is so deadly. This video is educational, not medical advice. If you have symptoms, seek professional care. What the pancreas really does. Your pancreas has two jobs. Job 1, it releases hormones, like insulin, that keep your blood glucose in a safe range. Job 2, it produces powerful digestive enzymes that flow through small ducts into your small intestine, helping you break down fats, proteins, and carbs. In other words, it controls how your body uses fuel and how your body extracts fuel. You don't feel your pancreas working the way you feel your heart pound or your lungs burn. It does its job quietly, in the background, every day. So this organ is not optional. It's a chemical factory and a control center. Now here's the first unfair advantage for the cancer. The pancreas sits deep in the abdomen, pressed near major blood vessels and vital plumbing. It's not like a skin lump you can notice early. It's not easy to see without imaging. And it can be difficult to operate on safely because of what surrounds it. Even the pain signals can be confusing here, because discomfort may feel like reflux, back strain, or a vague stomach problem. So the disease can hide in plain sight, not because it's invisible to machines, but because it's easy for humans to misread. The silent phase, why many people don't notice. Early pancreatic cancer can be hard to detect because symptoms are often vague. Not always, not for everyone, but often enough that it matters. You might notice fatigue that doesn't match your routine, appetite changes, nausea that comes and goes, dull upper abdominal discomfort, unexplained weight loss, feeling full faster than usual. And here's the problem. Those symptoms can look like stress, reflux, a diet issue, or just getting older. So the brain does what it always does. It explains it away. But inside, the biology is changing. Cancer is not just a lump. It's a population of cells that stop following the rules. Cells that divide when they shouldn't, survive when they shouldn't, and gradually push out normal function. And because the pancreas has reserve capacity, it can keep up for a while. That while is the danger window. The first real mechanism, a blocked drain pipe. Now we hit the turning point that can finally make the disease visible. Many pancreatic tumors develop in the head of the pancreas, an area positioned beside the common bile duct. That duct is a drain pipe, carrying bile from your liver into your intestine. Bile helps digest fats. It also carries waste products out of the body. When a tumor presses on that duct, bile can't drain normally. So bilirubin, one of bile's breakdown products, starts building up in the blood. And when that buildup becomes significant, the signs can be dramatic. Your eyes turn yellow. Your skin turns yellow. Your urine gets dark. Your stool may become pale. And itching can become intense, because bile components are circulating where they don't belong. Some people also notice digestive changes here, because bile isn't reaching the gut the way it should. Fats become harder to digest. Meals may feel heavier. Weight loss can accelerate. Important detail: this does not happen in seconds. This typically develops as obstruction worsens over days to weeks, depending on how quickly the blockage progresses and how complete it becomes. So when jaundice appears, it can feel sudden, but the process behind it has usually been building. Now we must confront the biggest advantage of all, the location problem. But first, if you want more deep dive science and to understand the mechanisms happening inside your body, tap and subscribe to the channel right now. The location problem, why surgery isn't always possible. Here's what makes surgeons cautious. The pancreas sits close to major blood vessels. Vessels you cannot casually cut around without life-threatening risk. These vessels supply huge regions of the gut and liver. They are not optional routes. If a tumor wraps around or invades those vessels, removing it completely can become extremely difficult, or sometimes impossible. And in cancer, completely matters, because if microscopic cancer cells remain behind, they can regrow. And if the tumor is close to critical vessels, surgeons may have to balance what's technically possible against what's survivable. So pancreatic cancer becomes deadly not just because it grows, but because of where it grows. And even when surgery is possible, it's often major surgery, long recovery, high complexity, and not everyone is medically fit for it. The real deadliness. Late discovery plus spread. Here's the hard truth. A large portion of cases are diagnosed after the cancer has already spread, often to the liver, the lining of the abdomen, or distant lymph nodes. Sometimes the spread is visible on scans. Sometimes it's microscopic, too small to detect at diagnosis, but large enough to matter later. That's why this disease can return even after aggressive treatment. It's not always a single mass problem. It can become a whole body problem earlier than people realize. And here's what makes this especially brutal. The liver is a common destination because of how blood from the digestive organs drains and circulates. Once the liver is involved, the body's chemistry lab is under threat too. Detox, metabolism, protein production, and fluid balance can all be affected. The fortress. Why drugs and immune attacks struggle. Now the part most people never hear. Pancreatic tumors don't just grow. They reshape the environment around them. Many pancreatic cancers trigger a dense, fibrous tissue response, often called desmoplastic stroma. Think of it like scar-like reinforcement forming around the tumor. This matters because it can reduce blood flow through parts of the tumor, make it harder for some therapies to reach all cancer cells evenly, create conditions that blunt effective immune attack. So the difficulty isn't only the cancer cell, it's the defensive ecosystem built around it. And that ecosystem can create uneven terrain. One pocket of tumor may be exposed to therapy, while another pocket is partially shielded, which gives resistant cells time to survive and adapt. The sneaky metabolic clue: blood sugar changes. Because the pancreas regulates insulin, some people develop new-onset diabetes or worsening blood sugar control around the time pancreatic cancer is developing. This is important, but it must be said correctly. Most diabetes is not caused by pancreatic cancer, but in certain contexts, especially with unexplained weight loss, jaundice, or persistent abdominal symptoms, sudden changes in blood sugar can be one more clue that deserves medical attention. Why does this happen? Because damage to insulin-producing cells, inflammation in the organ, or broader metabolic disruption can change how the body handles glucose. So the disease can interfere with your energy regulation while it's still hiding behind vague symptoms. The mid-video twist: your body starts breaking itself down. Now the betrayal effect. In many cancers, including pancreatic cancer, the body can shift into a destructive metabolic state called cachexia. This is not just not eating. It can involve loss of muscle, loss of fat, inflammatory signals driving breakdown, weakness that feels disproportionate, reduced ability to tolerate stress and treatment. Even with calories available, the body may struggle to maintain tissue. So the danger isn't only local growth, it's systemic destabilization. This is one reason patients can look like they're shrinking fast, even when they're trying to eat. The disease can change the body's internal rules, how it builds, how it stores, how it repairs. The sudden threats: blood clots. Another medically serious threat: blood clots. Pancreatic cancer is strongly associated with an increased risk of thrombosis, clots that can form in deep veins and sometimes travel to the lungs. So while the tumor may progress over time, complications can be sudden. That's why this disease is feared in oncology. It can advance quietly and still produce abrupt, life-threatening emergencies. And clots aren't the only sudden complication. In some cases, bile blockage can trigger infections in the bile system, or digestion can fail hard enough to accelerate malnutrition. The body can go from mostly functioning to in crisis faster than people expect. Why screening isn't simple. So why don't we catch this early every time? Because population-wide screening is difficult. The pancreas is deep and not easily examined directly. There isn't a single perfect early detection blood test for everyone. Imaging everyone routinely can cause harm through false alarms and unnecessary procedures. High-risk individuals in some settings may enter targeted surveillance, but that's not a universal solution. So for the general public, early detection remains challenging. And that's what makes awareness of the major warning patterns important. Not to self-diagnose, but to recognize when symptoms are persistent, escalating, or clustered in a way that deserves medical evaluation. The stacked advantage, why it's so deadly. If we compress the truth into one brutal chain, pancreatic cancer is deadly because it can stay quiet early, deep inside the body. Symptoms can be vague until the disease is advanced. It sits next to ducts and major blood vessels that limit surgical options. It often spreads before diagnosis, or soon after, sometimes microscopically. And it grows inside a protective microenvironment that can blunt therapy delivery and immune pressure. It's not one reason, it's many reasons stacked together. And that stack is why in this disease time matters. Not as a dramatic countdown, but as a silent head start the tumor often gets before anyone knows to look.